The rain hammered against the Parisian rooftop as Nathan Cole, a retired CIA operative, sat in the dimly lit bar nursing a whiskey. His years in the field had taught him one thing: silence was never just silence. His fingers traced the outline of a lighter, an old habit he hadn't shaken. Then, the burner phone in his pocket vibrated, shattering the illusion of peace. He hesitated before answering. "Cole," he said. A voice he hadn't heard in decades responded in a whisper. "The ghost is awake." His grip on the glass tightened. The ghost was a Cold War asset, buried so deep that even he had believed the man was a myth. Nathan's heart pounded as the voice continued. "A package is waiting for you at the old rendezvous point." Before he could respond, the line went dead. He pocketed the phone, threw some cash on the counter, and walked into the storm. The past wasn't done with him yet. Arriving at an abandoned bookstore in Montmartre, he slipped through the back alley entrance. A small envelope sat on the dust-covered counter. Inside, a Polaroid of a man he thought was long dead, Sergei Volkov. A single phrase was scrawled on the back in Russian: "Find him before they do." Nathan flipped the photo over again, trying to process what this meant. Volkov had been the ultimate deep-cover Soviet agent, a ghost among spies. If he was alive, someone had reactivated him. But who? And why now? His instincts screamed that this was a setup, but he had no choice. He pulled out a secure phone and dialed an old number. "Need a favor," he said when the familiar voice answered. "Paris. Now." He left the bookstore and melted into the rainy streets, knowing full well that he was already being watched. The game had begun again. The next morning, Nathan sat in a cafe near the Seine, pretending to read a newspaper. Across from him, a woman with auburn hair and sharp green eyes stirred her espresso. "I knew you'd call," she said without looking up. Isabelle Laurent, ex-DGSE, former French intelligence, and the only person he trusted. He slid the Polaroid across the table. "Volkov," she sighed, picking it up. "If this is real, we have a problem. After the Berlin Wall fell, he vanished. Some say he defected, others say he died. But if he's active again, someone is pulling the strings." Isabelle tapped her phone and turned the screen toward him. A classified Interpol report: 3 dead operatives in Berlin, all former intelligence assets. Their last known connection? A Russian bank with suspected ties to the FSB. "He's cleaning house," Nathan murmured. Isabelle nodded. "And that means we're already too late." He exhaled slowly, scanning the names. These weren't just assets. They were people who knew things about the Cold War's darkest secrets. If Volkov was eliminating them, he wasn't just reactivating. He was burying something deep. The question was, what was he trying to hide? They followed the lead to Berlin, a city where ghosts of the past still walked. Under the neon haze of Alexanderplatz, Nathan waited. At exactly midnight, a hooded figure approached. "Volkov is looking for something," the man whispered. "Something buried in the old KGB archives." Nathan narrowed his eyes. "Where?" The informant hesitated. "Moscow. Lubyanka." Isabelle cursed under her breath. The old KGB headquarters. That place wasn't just a fortress, it was a graveyard of secrets. "They'll kill you before you get close," the informant warned before vanishing into the night. Moscow was colder than Nathan remembered. They slipped through customs with forged passports, heading straight for their contact. Viktor Petrov, a former KGB archivist, met them in a dimly lit warehouse. "Volkov is after the Red Directive," he whispered. Isabelle tensed. That file was a Cold War legend, a list of deep-cover operatives, blackmail material, and nuclear contingency plans. "If he gets it," Petrov shook his head. "He's not getting it." Nathan exchanged a glance with Isabelle. They had less than 24 hours to reach it before Volkov did. Breaking into Lubyanka was suicide, but they had no choice. Moving under the cover of night, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors. Then, a gun clicked behind Nathan's head. "Did you really think you could outplay me?" Volkov's voice was ice cold. Isabelle spun, but 3 armed men stepped from the shadows. "You were always predictable, Cole," Volkov said. "You chase ghosts, but you never see the truth." Nathan clenched his jaw. "And what's the truth?" Volkov smiled darkly. "That you were the last loose end." Nathan smirked. "Then you should have killed me sooner." He pressed a hidden detonator in his sleeve. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and a distant explosion rocked the building. Chaos erupted as Nathan tackled Volkov, wrestling the gun away. Isabel took down one of the guards, grabbing a file from the desk. "This is it," she yelled. Volkov fought like a cornered animal, but Nathan was faster. A single shot rang out. Volkov slumped, staring at Nathan with something between rage and relief. "Too late," he whispered before going still. As sirens wailed in the distance, Nathan and Isabel vanished into the Moscow night. They had the red directive, but at what cost? "They'll come for us," Isabel murmured. Nathan lit a cigarette, exhaling slowly. "Let them." He pocketed the file, knowing the ghosts of the Cold War were never truly buried. Some wars never ended. They just waited. "You're not supposed to hear knocking from underground." But I did. It started with my cousin Rafik's funeral. We buried him on a cold November evening. He was 28, newly married, and perfectly healthy. He dropped dead in the middle of his shift at a construction site. Heart attack, they said. No family history, no warnings. Just collapsed and never got back up. We're from a small village in northern Pakistan. Tight-knit, religious, cautious of superstition. When someone dies, you don't question much. You grieve, bury, and move on. That's tradition. But Rafik's death never sat right with me. First off, the body had no signs of trauma. No blood, no bruises. But there was this expression on his face, like pure terror. Eyelids stretched, mouth frozen mid-scream. I've seen dead people before, old relatives, road accidents, but never anything like this. His father insisted we bury him quickly before sundown. I wanted to ask questions, but I respected the elder. We wrapped the body, performed the janazah prayer, and lowered him into the ground. I tossed in the final handful of dirt myself. That should have been the end, but it was only the beginning. 3 nights later, I was alone in my room around 1:30 a.m., going through old photos of Rafik on my phone. I felt guilty. We were more like brothers than cousins. He always stood up for me when others mocked my quiet nature. I should have spent more time with him when he was alive. That's when I heard the knocking. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks from underneath the floorboards. I froze. I live in a brick house. No crawl space, no basement. Just concrete below. But the sound was clear, rhythmic, like someone punching a wooden coffin from the inside. I tried to tell myself it was a dream, or rats, or maybe pipes. But I couldn't shake this dread growing inside me like a cold fever. The next morning, I went to Rafik's grave before sunrise. I needed closure. I wanted to believe I was just mourning, that grief was messing with my mind. But when I reached the graveyard, my blood ran cold. His grave looked disturbed. The soil was sunken in. There were scratch marks on the stone slab, like fingernails dragged across wet cement. I reported it to his father. He dismissed me, said animals must have dug around, told me to stop thinking like a city boy. But I couldn't let it go. A week passed, then another. That's when strange things began happening at night. I find my front gate open in the mornings, even though I locked it before bed. Sometimes, I'd wake up to muddy footprints on the patio. Human-sized footprints. One night, I heard someone sobbing outside my window. I peeked through the curtain, heart in my throat. Rafik was standing there. His burial shroud was soaked in dirt. His skin was pale, lips cracked, eyes bloodshot. But it was him, except not really him. He was crying, but the tears weren't tears. They were thick, black drops that slid down his face like oil. And then he whispered, "You buried me alive." I didn't open the window. I couldn't move. I just watched as he slowly walked into the trees and vanished into the dark. The next morning, I called for help. I told the village council, told the elders, begged them to exhume the grave. They thought I was possessed. They brought in an imam to pray over me. No one believed a word I said. But then, something happened that forced everyone to face the truth. Rafik's mother vanished. She was last seen lighting candles in the prayer room. Her slippers were still there. But she was gone, vanished without a trace. No break-in, no sign of struggle. Only a trail of wet soil leading from the room to the front door. That night, the entire village gathered at the graveyard. We exhumed Rafik's coffin. It was empty. Only the burial cloth remained, torn, soaked in black liquid, and smelling like rot and burnt hair. That's when the imam turned pale. He said something ancient had taken Rafik, something that mimics the dead, a cursed spirit that can take over a body if the soul is trapped and unable to pass on. He said sometimes, if the body is buried before its time, the soul never leaves, and the thing that enters it instead is not human. We held a second ritual, a purification. We burned the torn shroud and recited verses all night. The imam warned us, if the spirit has taken root, it will come for the bloodline. Since then, 2 more people in my family have died. One choked to death in his sleep. Another fell into a well with no cover. Unexplained. Sudden. I moved far away. Changed my name. Live alone. But every year, on the night Rafik died, I hear the knocks again. 3 knocks. Always at 1:30 a.m. Always from beneath the floor. And now they're getting louder. They say feeling watched is just paranoia. But what if you're right? I didn't believe in anything paranormal. No ghosts, demons, or shadows in the dark. I was a rational man. Science teacher. Lived alone. Quiet life. That was until I moved into the house on Gulmohur Lane. It was cheap, suspiciously so. A 2-story colonial house with ivy crawling up the bricks, antique wood floors, and tall windows that groaned at night. I should have asked more questions. But I was broke and needed to move in fast. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above, when I had the weirdest sensation, like someone was staring at me from the door. I turned. No one was there. Brushed it off. But from the second night on, I started waking up every morning feeling exhausted. Like I hadn't slept at all. I'd find my bedsheet on the floor, pillows displaced, drawers half open. I chalked it up to sleepwalking, even though I never had a history of it. Then came the scratches. Every morning, tiny scratches on the wooden floor, just at the foot of the bed. Parallel lines. Fresh. Sharp. I started locking my bedroom door at night. But every morning, it would be unlocked. One morning, I found muddy footprints leading into my room from the inside of the house. I live alone. Always have. I checked the front door, still locked. Windows? Still latched. It didn't make sense. That's when I installed the camera. Not for ghosts, just to see if I was sleepwalking. I set it up on a tripod, pointed it at my bed, and let it roll overnight. The footage nearly sent me into shock. Around 2:13 a.m., I saw myself tossing in bed, blanket slipping off. At 2:34 a.m., the doorknob slowly turned. It wasn't abrupt or ghostly, just slow, deliberate. And then he stepped in a frame. A man, mid-50s maybe, pale, bald, wearing a ragged hospital gown. He crawled into the room, on all fours, like a starving animal. His spine jutted unnaturally under his skin, and his head tilted every few seconds as if his neck had trouble holding it up. He sat next to my bed and just watched me sleep. For 4 hours straight. Never moved. Never blinked. Just watched. At 6:13 a.m., he crawled out again. I rewound the footage again and again, convinced I was hallucinating. I wasn't. The next night, I set 2 cameras. One at the door, one near my window. He came back. This time, he stood at the foot of my bed, staring. And I swear on everything, he was smiling. I went to the police. Showed them the footage. They thought it was a prank. Suggested maybe it was a friend messing with me. I didn't have friends. Not close ones. Certainly none who would break into my house and sit next to me for hours. They offered a patrol car to check in occasionally. That was it. I bought new locks, set up motion alarms. But every morning, the door was open. Alarms disabled. The man never left prints. Never made noise. But I could feel him every single night. So I stopped sleeping altogether. For days, I sat in a chair with a bat in hand, cameras rolling, lights on. He didn't come those nights. I thought maybe he'd gone, until I passed out from exhaustion. And he returned. This time he brought something. In the video, at 3:04 a.m., he walked in with a small mirror. He placed it against the wall, facing my bed. Then he stood in front of it, watching himself, and watching me. His smile was bigger. His hands were trembling. Suddenly, he turned to the camera and looked straight into it, like he knew I was watching. He pointed to the mirror. Then, without warning, he slammed his head into it. Over and over. The glass cracked, his blood smeared across it. But he never made a sound. It was like he was trying to open something. And then he vanished. I ran. Left the house the next morning with just my wallet and phone. Stayed at a hotel 30 kilometers away. Didn't sleep for 2 days. Then, against my better judgment, I called a spiritual advisor. He told me the man I saw wasn't a man. He said mirrors are portals. Ancient ones. That certain entities, human once, maybe get trapped in them when they die violently or unnaturally. If they're strong enough, they can visit places connected to their death. The previous owner of the house was a mental patient. Escaped a psychiatric ward in the 1980s. Lived in that house for 2 months before slicing his own throat in front of a large mirror. I hadn't known. No one told me. The advisor warned me. The more I watched him, the stronger he became. He said the entity feeds on attention, like a parasite, and I had been feeding him nightly. That night, in the hotel, I turned on the bathroom light and saw the mirror fogged up. There was a message scrawled into it. You look better when you sleep. I left that hotel within minutes. Burned the camera footage. Changed my number. Moved again. Don't stay anywhere more than a few weeks. Never keep mirrors uncovered. Never sleep without light. But I still feel it. That pull. That presence. And sometimes late at night, when I'm too tired to keep my eyes open, I feel it. I always thought my uncle was weird, but I never thought he was hiding something like this. He passed away last winter. Natural causes, they said. No foul play. But if you saw the state of his house, you'd understand why I never believed it was natural. He was a recluse, lived alone in his countryside cottage for almost 30 years. No kids, no wife, barely spoke to anyone. I was the only one he kept in touch with, even if our conversations were few and far between. So when the will named me executor of his estate, I wasn't surprised. I took a week off work and drove out to his property. That's when everything started to spiral. The house was colder inside than outside. Dust clung to everything. Cobwebs draped over the furniture like a funeral veil. And yet, it felt like someone had just been there. Coffee mug on the table. Curtains open. Fireplace still had a faint scent of burnt wood. I was there to sort through things, maybe sell the place. But I found something odd on the first night, a locked door in the basement. It wasn't just locked. It was sealed with heavy chains and padlocks that looked new. I didn't remember that door from when I visited him as a kid. And my uncle? He wasn't exactly the handyman type. The chains were overkill. Naturally, I want to know what was behind it. Took me 2 days to find the keys, hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. One key had a red thread tied to it. Felt important. I wish I hadn't touched it. When I finally unchained the basement door, I hesitated. The moment the key clicked, I felt a pressure in my ears, like the air changed. Like the house knew what I was doing. I opened it anyway. The room was pitch black. No light switch. Just a faint musty smell, damp wood, rotting cloth, and something metallic. I used my phone's flashlight. That's when I saw the drawings. The walls were covered in symbols, etched in chalk, charcoal, and something that looked suspiciously like dried blood. Circles, triangles, eyes, crosses. They covered every inch, floor to ceiling. Even the ceiling fan had carvings on its blades. In the center of the room, an old wooden chair, bolted to the floor with leather straps, like something out of a psychiatric ward. Surrounding it were jars, dozens of them. Inside each was something. Teeth, hair, little bones. And each jar had a tag with a date and a name. I backed out immediately, closed the door, locked it, tried to tell myself it was some sort of art project, some twisted coping mechanism. Maybe my uncle had mental health issues he never shared. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that. Because that night, the chair moved. I heard it at 2:48 a.m., a loud screech, like with scraping against concrete. I thought maybe a raccoon got in, grabbed a flashlight, and went down. The basement was still, silent, except the sealed room's door was wide open, and the chair was no longer in the middle. It was facing the door. My heart dropped. I knew I locked that door, relocked the chains, went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. Something about the way that chair was angled. It felt like someone had been sitting in it, watching, waiting. The next day, I tried calling anyone to talk sense into me. But my phone was dead, fully charged the night before. Laptop? Wouldn't turn on. The car battery? Drained. It was like something didn't want me to leave. Then I noticed a jar. One of the jars from the basement was sitting on the kitchen counter. Not broken, not dusty, just placed there. And the tag read, Isaac, 2025. That's my name. And that's this year. I ran back to the basement. Every single jar was there except for one, the one now in my kitchen. I didn't understand how it moved or what it meant, but I felt sick. Sick like something was inside me. Watching. Feeding. That night, the dream started. Flashes of my uncle screaming in that chair. Shadows surrounding him. A voice whispering in a language I didn't understand. I woke up with blood in my mouth. Nosebleed. More than I've ever had. I tried to leave the house. Couldn't. Every time I approached the front door, I felt pressure in my skull, like something was pushing me back, like gravity reversed. I would black out and wake up hours later on the floor. The house was keeping me, feeding off me. I don't know how long I've been here anymore. Days, weeks. Time doesn't work the same inside this place. The symbols on the walls are glowing now. At night, I hear voices in events. I see shadows walking past the mirror, even when I'm not in the frame. And every night, the chair is closer to the stairs. Closer to me. I found my uncle's journal yesterday, hidden under the floorboards. Final entry. The entity is stronger now. It wants youth. It wants blood. The room is its body. The chair is its mouth. I should never have opened it. But it's too late now. I hear it whispering my nephew's name. If you're reading this and you ever inherit a house you weren't expecting, don't go. Burn it, because some rooms were never meant to be opened. And once you open them, they remember you forever. There are places you're not supposed to wander into. And if you do, you're not supposed to bring anything back. It started with a camping trip. Just me and my buddy Ron. We've been doing this tradition for years. One weekend, no phones, just beer, fire, and silence under the stars. This time, we decided to go deeper into the forest than usual. A state park up north, mostly untouched. No marked trails. That was mistake number one. We hiked for hours before we found a clearing. It looked perfect. Flat ground, water nearby, and oddly quiet. No birds, no wind, just stillness. The first night was normal. Ron passed out early after too much whiskey, and I stayed up watching the fire die out. That's when I heard it. A buzzing noise, like a phone on vibrate. Faint, but clear. I thought it was my imagination, but when I turned my head toward the trees, it got louder. It was coming from the ground. The next morning, I grabbed a stick and started digging near the noise. I didn't expect to find anything. But 3 inches down, my stick hit plastic. It was a phone. Black, dirty, still vibrating. No brand, no buttons. Just a smooth glass slab with a flickering screen. The kind of thing you'd swear was fake until it turned on. There was only one app. A red icon with a white circle. No words. No menu. Just the camera. I tapped it, and it opened to the front-facing camera, already recording. But what it showed wasn't my face. Instead of me, I saw a dark room behind me. A figure, tall, thin, twitching, standing just inches away. I dropped the phone and turned. Nothing. Just the forest. But when I picked the phone up again, the figure was closer in the reflection. I turned around again. Still nothing. I should have smashed it right there. But I didn't. I showed it to Ron, but the screen had gone black. He thought I was messing with him. That night, the buzzing came back. This time louder. We both heard it, coming from multiple spots in the forest. We went to sleep early, but I couldn't stop staring at the phone. At 3:11 a.m., it turned on by itself. The front camera opened again, still recording. Only now, I wasn't in the frame. Just trees. Hundreds of trees. But they weren't from our forest. They looked older, taller, twisted in ways trees shouldn't be. In the background, something moved. Fast. Glitching, like it was skipping frames. Something human-shaped, but wrong. It looked straight at the camera. Then the screen blinked. Follow me. I woke Ron. Told him we had to go. Right now? No questions. He thought I was nuts, but the look on my face convinced him. We packed up fast and started hiking out with flashlights. No trail, no GPS. Just compass and memory. But the deeper we moved, the less familiar everything looked. That's when we realized we were walking in circles. Worse, the trees had changed. Gnarled. Bark split open like scarred flesh. And the buzzing? It followed us. Louder with every step. I pulled out the phone. The camera app opened on its own. The image was now black, except for 2 glowing white eyes staring from the darkness. We finally found a ranger station after 14 hours. We were dehydrated, panicked, and probably looked insane. They chalked it up to exposure and disorientation. Took the phone. Said they'd handle it. But 2 nights later, back at home, I woke up at 3:11 a.m. My own phone was buzzing, and the same camera app had appeared. I never downloaded it. It opened automatically, and in the feed, I saw myself sleeping. Then behind me, the thing. Pale, skin stretched tight over its face. Just staring. Not moving. Not blinking. Watching. I smashed my phone. Got a new number. New device. Left town. Ron too. We don't talk about it anymore. Not out loud. But sometimes, my new phone vibrates at 3:11 a.m. No app. No notification. Just the faint hum. And I know if I turn the screen on, it'll be watching. Waiting. I used to think urban legends were just stories, something people told around a campfire to scare kids. Then I watched my best friend walk into a tunnel and never come back out. And the worst part? I saw what took him. We grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. Nothing much to do except roam the woods and cause harmless trouble. One place we always avoided was Miller's Tunnel. It wasn't just abandoned, it felt wrong. Locals said it was cursed, that people vanished inside it and were never seen again. We always joked about it growing up, but no one actually went near it. Not even the adults. Until Ryan. Ryan was the brave one. Or stupid. Maybe both. He got obsessed with local urban legends for his YouTube channel. urban explorations, creepy stories, that kind of thing. This tunnel is the one no one talks about, he told me one day. That makes it perfect. He begged me to come with him. Said it would just take an hour. I didn't want to, but he was my best friend. We packed flashlights, GoPros, and walked the 3 miles into the hills. When we got there, I wanted to turn back. The tunnel wasn't just dark, it was silent. Not a single sound. Not even birds. Just wind and cold. It looked like it had been sealed with concrete at some point, but someone had knocked a hole big enough to crawl through. The walls around the entrance were scorched, like fire had licked at the edges years ago. Ryan smiled. This is gold. I followed him in. Inside, it was pitch black. Our flashlights barely cut through the darkness. The air was thick, like walking into a sealed room that hadn't been opened in decades. The walls were covered in strange symbols, scratched into the stone. Not spray paint. Not carving. Scratched. Like with fingernails. Ryan kept filming, mumbling about rituals and disappearances from the 1960s. I just wanted to leave. Then we heard something. A low, echoing whistle. Not wind. Not animal. It sounded like a man whistling a lullaby. Slow. Off-key. Ryan stopped. You heard that too? I nodded. My mouth had gone dry. He pointed his flashlight forward, toward the blackness ahead. Let's go just a bit further. I should have turned around right then. But I didn't. We walked maybe 30 more steps when Ryan froze. I looked past him and saw it. A figure. Crouched. Pale. Hairless. Arms too long. Just standing there, halfway in the shadows. Head tilted like it was studying us. Then it smiled. Not a grin. A slow, twitching smile, like its face didn't know how to do it right. Ryan raised his camera. Do you see? The thing moved. Fast. I screamed. Ryan ran forward, but I turned and ran the hell out of there. When I reached daylight, I turned around. No sign of him. Just silence. I waited. An hour. Then 2. Called his name. Nothing. I called the police. They searched the tunnel with dogs, drones, even demolition tools. No trace. No footage. His GoPro was found smashed outside the tunnel. They ruled it a disappearance. I know the truth. 2 weeks later, I got a message. From Ryan's account. Just one sentence. I'm still in here. He won't let me leave. No location. Nothing else. The account went dark after that. I haven't gone back. But sometimes, late at night, I get calls from private numbers. When I pick up, it's silent. Except for that same whistling. Off-key. Slow. Familiar. They say you can get used to anything. But you never get used to a knock that comes from nowhere and from someone who should not exist. It started 2 months after I moved into the cabin. I was renting a remote property in the Appalachian Mountains. Cheap, isolated, peaceful. A perfect place to work on my book. The nearest neighbor was over 2 miles away. No cell signal. Just satellite internet and silence. Exactly what I thought I needed. I was wrong. The first knock came on a Tuesday. 3:03 a.m. Sharp. Calm. 3 knocks. Not rushed. Not panicked. Just there. I thought I'd imagined it, but when I got out of bed and looked through the peephole, there was nothing. No wind. No movement. Just the dark woods and the cold porch. I shrugged it off. Timber creaks. Imagination. Dreams. But the next night, it came again. 3:03 a.m. 3 knocks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Raccoon, wind, whatever. I thought the same. But I installed a motion camera above the door the next day. That night, I set an alarm for 3 a.m. At 3:03, the knocks came, right on time. I was ready. I rushed to the door. No one. I checked the camera. It triggered. And the footage? It showed a man. Bald. Gaunt. Wearing old, stained clothes. Just standing there. Not moving. The weirdest part? His eyes were closed. He knocked with one hand. Then just stood there for 22 seconds before turning around and walking off into the woods. I watched the video again and again. Frame by frame. His mouth was moving the whole time. Like he was whispering something. Except there was no sound. And he had no shoes on. I called the local sheriff's office. They sent someone the next morning. We walked around. No footprints. No signs of anyone. Probably just a transient, the deputy said. Happens sometimes. He'll move on. But he didn't. The next night, 3:03 a.m. 3 knocks. Now he was closer to the door. Still whispering. Still barefoot. This time, I didn't open it. I just watched from behind the curtain, heart pounding, hand tight around a kitchen knife. I didn't sleep again that night. By the fifth night, I'd had enough. I waited behind the door with a bat. As the clock hit 3:03, the knocks came again, soft, deliberate. I yanked the door open. Nothing. No man. No sound. But the camera? It still showed him, standing inches from me. Eyes closed. Mouth whispering. Let me in. I checked the audio feed later. It was full of static. Except at the exact moment he knocked. Then, a voice, my voice, said clearly. He sees you too. I lost it. I went to town the next morning, showed the footage to a guy at the hardware store. He watched in silence, then turned to me and asked a question I wasn't ready for. Does he get closer each night? I didn't answer. He just nodded. You should leave. But I couldn't. Not yet. That night, I didn't sleep. The door was triple locked. Curtains shut. All lights off. 3:03 came. 3 knocks. Then the sound of a second knock. From the back door. I ran through the house. Looked through the curtain. No one. I ran back to the front. Still no one. I checked the camera. Now there were 2 of them. Identical. Standing perfectly still. Whispering in unison. I tried to leave the next morning. Threw everything in the truck and floored it down the gravel road. After a mile, the engine died. Battery dead. GPS scrambled. I hiked to town. Took hours. I stayed in a cheap motel. That night, no knocks. No nightmares. I went back for my stuff the next day, bringing a mechanic with me. He checked the truck, scratched his head, then said, "This is strange. Your battery isn't dead. It's missing. Gone. Completely removed. I don't live there anymore. I broke the lease. Lost my deposit. Don't care. But I still think about the knocks. 3:03 a.m. 3 knocks. Sometimes I wake up at that time, even now. Out of habit. And I swear, I hear it. Soft. Distant. But real. 3 knocks. And a whisper I can almost understand. You think you're safe inside your home. You lock your doors. Shut your windows. But what if the danger is already inside? I didn't believe it either, until I found the man who had been living in my attic for weeks. Watching me. Listening. Learning. It started with little things. Items out of place. Food disappearing from the fridge. Lights left on I swore I turned off. I lived alone, in a quiet 2-bedroom house just outside Kansas City. I worked from home, kept to myself. No pets, no roommates, no wild parties. So when a half-eaten sandwich appeared in the sink one morning, I thought I was losing my mind. Until it kept happening. At first, I told myself I was just tired. Overworked. Maybe I made the sandwich and forgot. Maybe I was leaving the lights on. But then things got creepier. I started waking up at night to strange sounds. Soft footsteps. A floorboard creaking directly above me. My bedroom is right under the attic. I tried to ignore it. Blamed it on rats or the house settling. Until I found my bathroom door open one night, with steam still fogging the mirror. I live alone. I set up a small security camera in the hallway, just to calm myself. Nothing happened for a few nights. Then, around 2:43 a.m. on a Tuesday, I saw it. A figure, thin, wearing dirty clothes, crawling out of the attic hatch. He moved slowly, silently, like he'd done it hundreds of times. I watched in horror as he tiptoed to the kitchen, opened my fridge, and calmly made himself a sandwich. Then he stood in the living room, just watching the hallway camera. He smiled. I called the cops immediately. They came, swept the house. Nothing. But when they checked the attic, they found it. A small nest. Blankets. Empty food wrappers. A flashlight. A journal. He had been living there for over 3 weeks. He wrote about me in the journal. How I brushed my teeth. What time I went to sleep. What shows I watched. He called me the girl. Wrote that I looked peaceful when I slept. He even drew pictures of me. Sleeping. The attic door doesn't lock. And apparently, he got in through a vent in the roof that was never properly sealed. The police never found him. They think he escaped the night I called them. But I don't believe that. Because sometimes, just sometimes, I still hear the attic creak at night. And last week, I found a sandwich in the sink again. Half-eaten, just like before. I was a night shift trucker in 2018, driving long hauls through the lonely stretches of the Midwest. Out there, where your only company is the road and your thoughts, weird things tend to find you. But nothing compares to the night I tuned into a radio station that shouldn't have existed. A broadcast meant for someone else. Or something else. I was halfway through Nebraska, around 2 a.m., when my usual stations faded into static. That's normal. Some stretches are just dead zones. So I started scanning. Through the hiss and garbled noise, I landed on a frequency that buzzed in perfectly. 107.3 FM. No call letters, no song. Just a man's voice. Calm. Robotic. Reading numbers. 7, 12, 7, 3, 9. Repeat. 7, 12, 7, 3, 9. I figured it was some number station, like those Cold War relics still bouncing around shortwave. But it was an FM station. Local. And the signal? Crystal clear. I kept it on, curious. He repeated that string of numbers, over and over, for about 20 minutes. Then silence. Not static, intentional silence. The kind that buzzes in your ears. Then, suddenly, he's almost there. The voice was different now. Hollow. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Crunching over gravel. I looked out my windshield. Nothing but empty road. Then the voice again. He knows you're listening. I slammed the radio off. I'm not ashamed to say I felt cold sweat run down my spine. I told myself it was some performance art thing, maybe a pirate broadcast. But then the radio turned back on. By itself. You shouldn't have found this station. I stopped the truck. Killed the ignition. Now the entire dashboard lit up. All the warning lights, blinking in sync. The radio kept playing. No voice now, just a loud hum, like a dial tone layered over static. I ripped the head unit out. The sound kept going. Eventually, it stopped. The lights faded. My truck restarted like nothing happened. But I noticed something on my GPS screen. A location had been entered into the system. 37.5552 degrees north, 98.7654 degrees west. I looked it up later. It was in the middle of an abandoned airfield in Kansas. Decommissioned in 1974. No access roads. Fenced off by the government. And yet my GPS still tried to reroute me there. For the next 3 weeks. Every time I crossed state lines, the signal would reappear on 107.3 FM. More numbers. More voices whispering things they shouldn't know. Until finally, one night, the voice said, "He's inside the cab now." I nearly wrecked into a ditch. But when I turned around, nothing. Just the empty bench behind me. I've since quit trucking. Moved to Alaska. No highways. No long nights. No FM dial. But last week, my phone lit up at 2:43 a.m. A local push notification. No app attached. No source. Just one message. 107.3 FM. Tune in now. My sister, Anya, moved back in with us after her divorce. She was quieter, distracted, like part of her didn't return with her. We thought it was just stress, maybe depression. But I was wrong. It was the thing in the mirror. And she let it follow her here. The first time I noticed something strange was a Thursday night. Anya was brushing her hair in the bathroom, door wide open. I passed by and her reflection didn't move. She was running the brush through her hair, but in the mirror? Still, staring, right at me. I blinked. She turned and smiled. "What?" she asked casually. I didn't say anything. Thought it was my imagination. But that night, I dreamed of her reflection crawling out of the mirror. Backwards. Inhuman. Silent. After that, the house got colder. Our cat stopped going into the bathroom completely. Would hiss at the hallway. Anya changed too. She started locking the bathroom mirror behind a closet door. Weird, right? One night, I caught her whispering to the mirror. Not in it, to it. I stood outside the door and listened. "I told you we're not there anymore." "No, you're not allowed in." "You promised." Then silence. I asked her about it later. She just said, "Sometimes reflections don't know when to stop." I thought about taking her to a doctor. Then something happened that made me question everything. Our 3-year-old cousin came over to visit. Sweet little boy. While he was playing, he wandered into the hallway. Saw the bathroom door slightly ajar. He came back crying. Anya's in the mirror. She's stuck and can't get out. But Anya was in the living room with me. I went to the mirror myself. Stared into it. Waited. At first, just my reflection. Then it smiled. Before I did, I slammed the door shut. Pushed a chair against it. That night, I woke to creaking. The bathroom door, opening on its own. I rushed out. Found Anya standing in front of the mirror again. She turned slowly. Her eyes were all white. No pupils. Just milky, swirling clouds. "I didn't close the door this time," she whispered. "It's free now. We tried to bless the house. Priests. Salt. Mantras. Nothing worked. The reflection doesn't appear every night, but it knows I know. Sometimes when I pass by, I see two Anyas. One real, one watching. And sometimes, when the light hits just right. The wrong one smiles. I don't think she ever came back whole from that house she left. I think she left the door open, just a crack, and something stepped through. Last night, I found a note taped to the bathroom mirror. It was in Anya's handwriting, shaking and rushed. If I ever start brushing my hair at 3:33 a.m., don't look. No matter what she says. She's not me.